My name is Aisha Ibrahim and this is Election Brief. We are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125 and all our social media handles are Joy News on TV. My personal handle is @Nana Aisha. Election headquarters is brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, SIMA, and AICPA together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental Wellness and Beauty, Chopbox Technologies, a convenience service, and Youth Bridge Foundation. Election headquarters is for an informed electorate. Please do stay for details. Fresh data contained in EC's 2024 budget shows more than 500 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for electoral services, with more than 50% expected to go into conducting elections this year. The data shows that the budget to conduct elections has gone up by more than 30 million cedis compared to that of 2020. This comes at a time when Ghana is going through one of its harshest economic turmoils and has had to restructure its debt to create fiscal space. The Joy News Research Desk has a copy of this budget and they've been doing some comparative analysis. My colleague Isaac Kofi joins me in the studio with more. Kofi, first of all, I want you to give us a breakdown of this data.
Well, so this is fresh data contained in the Electoral Commission's own budget for 2024. And this was released by the Finance Ministry. So fresh information that we are getting is that the total amount allocated for the cost of electoral services, which includes the conducting of the elections and also the voter registration exercise. So if you combine all the electoral services for 2024, EC says their budgets are allocating somewhere around 542.23 million Ghana cedis. That's more than 1 billion Ghana cedis, $500 million Ghana cedis for electoral services this year. Now, let's do the breakdown in terms of what will go into conducting election 2024 and then also other, sources. So if you look at the compilation of the voter registration exercise, which, I mean, we've had a lot of issues with it, but thankfully, some of the issues have been resolved. They say that they will need 219.73 million Ghana cedis to do the voter registration exercise, or, the voter registration exercise for this year. Now, let's go to the other aspects of this electoral services that they need more than $500 million Ghana cedis to conduct. Now, conducting elections, and I believe this is for election 2024, the presidential and parliamentary.
So that's the main day, the D-Day of elections.
Absolutely.
This is how much will go into
how much has been budgeted, allocated. It could be more or it could be less, but what we are learning is that from the document that we are actually studying, that they will need 322.51 million Ghana cedis to do or to conduct election 2024, Aisha.
Right. So you've been doing some comparative analysis. At least we've had how many elections over the period? 2020, 2020, 2016, 2012, 2008. And so let's have a comparative analysis in terms of how much is going into this year's election.
In fact, let's compare it to the most previous elections. So we've had the 2020 election being the most previous. So we do the comparative analysis using the 2020 election, comparing it to the budgetary allocation for 2024. Now, because we are talking about conducting elections and the D-Day, how much it will be needed to carry out elections, we decided to compare this to the
last elections.
Absolutely.
And this
year. If you look at the whole electoral services, the budget for last election, which is 2020, was actually higher than this year. Possibly because of the COVID-19, the hand sanitizers, and all of those things, the logistics that they had to buy.
All of that.
So, I mean, you can give it to them that that election had more than 600 million allocation. But this year, there's no COVID, there's no buying of hand sanitizers and PPEs. But the Electoral Commission says they need more than $500 million Ghana cedis to conduct or to do electoral services. Now, in there is the conducting of elections. Let's do the comparative analysis. In 2020, let's start from there, 287.7 million Ghana cedis.
0.8 million.
Yes, 0.8 million Ghana cedis was needed. That was the budgetary allocation in 2020 for the elections. Now, come to 2024, this sees, an adjustment of more than 30 million Ghana cedis to 322.51 million Ghana cedis. If you do the math, we are talking about somewhere more than 12% jump between the allocations. And these are just allocations. They could be more, just like I said, and they could be less. But what we are learning is that if you compare this year's election to that of 2020, the budgetary allocation, especially for conducting elections, has gone up by more than 12%, Aisha.
By more than 12%. This is a document that we'll be breaking down for you subsequently because it's just started. Let's get on to other stories. An early warning and response mechanism set up by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is raising red flags over the level of mistrust between political parties and the Electoral Commission of Ghana with less than 7 months to the general election. The mechanism allows member states to identify and analyze conflict trends and to initiate timely responses to prevent violent conflict. Speaking on the sidelines of Ghana's Country Resilience and Human Security Assessments meeting in Accra, Ghana's Early Warning Mechanism Director, Colonel William Kwesi-Oheming, noted steps will be taken to engage all stakeholders to identify the source of these emerging red flags in order for peace to prevail before, during, and after the 2024 general elections.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has commenced a review of its early warning and response mechanism. The platform has a broad objective of collecting and analyzing information from 5 thematic areas in order to prevent a crisis. After a country review of Nigeria and some other West African neighbors, a delegation has arrived in Ghana to dialogue with stakeholders on the country's early warning profile. Key on the governor's agenda is the mistrust between political parties and the Electoral Commission, with just about 6 months to the general elections.
We are very cognizant that Ghana has a history of free and fair elections, and that there will be elections upcoming. And so we are looking at issues of mistrust for electoral stakeholders and concerns about any electoral vulnerabilities. We are looking at the political landscape.
Already, Ghana's National Center for Coordination of Early Warning and Response Mechanism says election security is on the front burner as officials review they'll soon engage stakeholders in order to consolidate the findings and to develop strategies that will maintain peace and security.
We are aware that the election is coming out and it's one of the major issues, security issues that needs to be looked at. The Electoral Commission and its staff and the political parties to find ways of coordinating with them to see their views and how we all together as a country can work together to bring out the best from this research. This is still the research. We are going to the field to find them out. At this stage, we can't sit here and say that there is a problem with the Electoral Commission or there is a problem with the political parties. That is why we are going to the field to conduct the research to find them out.
In the meantime, the West Africa Network for Peace Building is urging the Electoral Commission of Ghana to work in a manner that will clear doubts and build trust amongst the electorate ahead of this year's elections.
Well, it is important that the person organizing the election must be believed and trusted by all parties in the elections. So once there's this mistrust for the organizer of the elections, then it breeds the ground for some kind of disagreement when results are announced. And if that happens, whether rightly or wrongly, then the supporters of the losing party, whether in opposition or whether the ruling government, may take to the street and they may cause mayhem. So right now that we've seen that kind of mistrust between the EC and some parties, it is important that we bring some kind of peace-building processes that will bring the two parties together.
After intense deliberation and field visits, the early warning mechanism is aimed at providing adequate information to Ghana security agencies and other authorities to prevent a further escalation. Blessed Sugan's report for Joy News, Accra.
The NPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahama Bawumia, has received an overwhelming welcome from hundreds of party supporters as he begins his three-day tour of the Ashanti region. Crowds gathered along major streets, waving flags, placards, and banners bearing messages supporting the ruling NPP government ahead of the general elections. Following a 2-hour meeting with the traditional leaders, the Vice President will meet the clergy at Makion Temple before meeting Muslim leaders in the afternoon at the Kumasi Central Mosque. Later in the afternoon, he will meet traders at the Kumasi Central Market. Dr. Bawumia will conclude the first day of his campaign activities by meeting various professional bodies, including the Ghana Medical Association, the Ghana Bar Association, the Ghana Journalists Association, the University Teachers Association of Ghana, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, the Coalition of Concerned Teachers, the Ghana Institute of Architects, the Ghana Institute of Engineers, the Ghana Institute of Surveyors, the Ghana Association of Society of Medical Physics, Nurses and Midwifery Association, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Ghana, and the Ghana Institute of Planning, among others. We'll bring you more on this in our subsequent bulletins. Now, former President John Mahama is upbeat about his 24-hour economy promise, asserting it is key to revitalizing the ailing economy. The NDC is yet to provide the fine details of that program, but speaking at a social media engagement Sunday evening, John Mahama, who is also the NDC's flag bearer for the 2024 presidential election, says the environment will be created to enable more public and private institutions to operate on a 24-hour basis, describing as unacceptable the unemployment situation in the country. The former president said a reset of the country would fix all wrongs undertaken by the current regime.
As your selfless, truthful, experienced and visionary leader, I need your vote to reset Ghana. And I assure you that I'll work with you to build a country of shared growth and prosperity. By resetting Ghana, we will repair the dangerous damage that has been done to our country's economy and people. Businessmen and women who have been given raw deals by this government's apparatchiks will have their say and can be assured of restoration. Collapsed banks and financial institutions shall be restored after a thorough and unbiased assessment. We will provide decent and well-paying jobs through my 24-hour economy initiative. And let me be clear, I am utterly appalled and disappointed by the unprecedented unemployment rate we're seeing today. Perhaps if the government had not jettisoned the 40-year National Development Plan, which was developed by the NDPC during my presidency, they would have adopted and implemented my 24-hour economy initiative, which was contained in that document. And that would have saved Ghanaians from these levels of unprecedented unemployment. But as the saying goes, elections come with consequences. The stark reality is that the current 8-hour working system is inadequate to create the production, productivity, and well-paying jobs required for the revival of Ghana's currently bankrupt economy. The unemployment rate can possibly cross the 20% mark under the watch of this driver's mate.
The former President John Mahama challenged the outcome of the 2020 presidential election at the Supreme Court but lost. Ahead of the December 7 elections, he indicates the NDC has a robust election monitoring center capable of collating results ahead of the Electoral Commission.
Our opponents to create confusion, to make sure that this, our anniversary, will not happen.
Let me reassure you that we shall protect your votes. This election is not going to be business as usual. Through our party executives, we are recruiting competent, committed, and loyal agents at the constituency and branch levels. Personally, I have also tasked the NDC Elections and IT Directorate to rely on our party's robust database to generate potential polling agents. In addition, we're recruiting volunteers, willing young Ghanaians ready and willing to join our campaign efforts in the communities to drive home the message and demand for change. We shall collate our results on time, as we did during the Asin-North by-election and the just ended limited voters registration exercise. And on 7th December, if the EC makes any mistakes, we shall promptly correct them.
NDC National Chairman Johnson Asiedu Nketia is accusing the NPP of busing cocoa board workers in Nkranza to transfer their votes there. Asiedu Nketia is alleging that the move is a ploy to get the cocoa board workers to transfer their votes to the constituency and vote for the NPP candidate, who is the spouse of one of the workers at Cocoa Board. Speaking at the 32nd anniversary of the NDC, the national chairman called on peace-loving institutions to call the NPP to order to ensure the peace of the country is not compromised.
Our opponents to create confusion, to make sure that this, our anniversary, will not happen, or it will be marred in controversies. All our attention will be drawn this morning to other debates that are completely irrelevant. But we have resisted that temptation. Let them continue lying. At the appropriate time, they will have their responses. But let me tell the peace-loving people of this country, the group of people we normally will call the conscience of this country, that our nation is not sitting well. We are getting into a crucial election, and all attempts that we have made to make sure that the election turned peaceful are being frustrated. We warned against militarization of our elections. Today, even on the occasion of voter transfers, military men have been deployed in some constituencies, wielding weapons, trying to convert the citizens who bought the weapons and the uniform for them into the enemies of the state. Please, if there are any voices of conscience left in this country, this is the time for them to speak. As I speak to you now, Kwame Danson is boiling. There are pictures of marauding soldiers wielding weapons and harassing innocent citizens. Their only offense being ensuring that the voter transfer proceeds according to the laws of this country. You go to Nkranza, buses belonging to the state have loaded workers of Cocoa Board and other state institutions from elsewhere in the country who have absolutely nothing to do with the selection of political leadership for Nkranza, have been bused and camped in a house so that they can effect transfers of their votes to go and determine who becomes the next MP for Nkranza. The reason being that the wife of a senior staff of Cocoa Board is contesting election. So the whole staff of Cocoa Board ought to be mobilized to transfer their votes to go and vote to unseat our MP for Nkransa North. As I speak to you, there are several security personnel deployed in Nsoko, the capital of my constituency. And they made sure.
We're still live on Election Brief. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more. Time now to hear from you, the electorate, on election voters' voice.
24 hours a day economy. Now our purchase say, Saturday say our main dada. Our police for our main aduma. Ebi kwanopa, no more panado. Now ebi nso akwanado no more panopa. Militia for fire service, soldiers. Omu nyina sa. Oba individual ekura $1,000. Ebi a night, ebi a day. Neni wadada. Ana me amemba oboso ka ha. Ana memba beton madie apon awia. Na me yere so abeto aso anadwo. Ana opetire say. Sabika flat enya kwala bi mu. Ye nya kwala. Ana obedada say de odada ye be lot of ekoye no. Na okasa mo say de new NDC eba. New NDC ran de ade new masa am de man ko school. New no ye de ade. Senior yima no kakra. New no ye ade foforo ana meboa. Na new NDC no ane de Mahama no adi animu asa driver no wa na adi animu asedu katia wom kwaku ando wom samija fi wom munyina mu wom owura ni meti ya obai wasa koyi ono ati adi ani nimu ubetu futuro eguani na obaje o man 4 years akọ sero what say ukura wo soro kase ya fa 4 years nyere e ka ho ya fa ka ho oni 4 years e fe mu man 84 years na aba no wo baba no be dey that means ube wiayen. What is what the car say? God, you put a short memory. Ya do so. It will be dada ya. It you walk up message from there. Now when the anya juma message we part of boa anya juma up message. The more die about to abamano or your mama. Met you our brasema driver no. It driver no so send me ye. But me promise say oba obey we. Masa obey the driver no so prepare ni nyina when intro. The ba me beka bia me Tony aboso ka AK bodio. The one that's was a Bamia obey. I just say, oh, blasema in the driver, no driver, so at it obey.
The person me casafa Mahama, any Baumia, or more promise ya, or more amaneho. Near the kind and penny force, ya be siusua and kayashe oma. Mahama, what the kind, I bet no mine so, yenina yehui near Omaino, a firm. Na Mahama me dear me from dear so bibi pa bi de ba ma o man no a enka asesen ko bae no ya branti na asesen ko o ye bibi me friend show boy prekope na so emfie nan a o bae no o de o man ne ko ahohiahiam e ma o man ni dia bobo edi atepe pa enwuma eye basa dum so me kura sa bre na me ni o man mu so Meti no dumso ampa me ba na e cost pepepe ema me beto ho generators be 4 eni gugu minimum na me de adwuma e ka bebre enti o mo bi de bebo o man no ana sa abre no wantimi amfa sa emoa na mo o man no tena ho eye nhwe han ma sa ne me course no onim se mpanifo aka to ho se opani a otena fie ema asafia efo no sa opani ni ye kan nankan refo a oka ho bia na nei o se o the 24 hours economy eba mi bisa o misre bisa sa 24 hours economy na o de eba no mesre bisa se obae no anye bia companies dodo sen ena obi e ya enei ye beye mu adwuma 24 hours yi a bi beko anopa na ebi nso so akwa wia apon yi Me pacho mimi so proprietor madwuma ketewa ya mabia me ne me yere ne me ma ene egumu emu aketua nso yen no eno ene yede be operate sa 24 hours economy na me pacho omumra biem ana se Mahama omra biem no meyi ano ana o mekirekire mu yie ebia meme no me ye layman ntimenti ase yie minim se driver ni a ono wa eka ne car na se businessman a wato ne taxi ama ne driver no na sa taxi no edi be ya adwuma 24 hours na se ode kwa adwuma sa 24 hours na driver foforo ben na nipa ben na ode kwakofa on.
Voters' Voice on Election Brief. Election Brief is on election headquarters, and election headquarters is for an informed electorate. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.